Commander John Miller stood by the large window of Earth Central Command, watching the stars. His weathered face showed the lines of 20 years in space. The calm night sky had changed 3 days ago when the alien ships appeared. 50 massive vessels, each bigger than anything humans had ever built, now hung in orbit like dark moons. "Commander, they're requesting your presence in the meeting room," said a young officer, her voice tight with worry. John nodded. "Tell them I'm on my way." He straightened his blue uniform and touched the silver Earth Defense Force badge on his chest for luck. This was humanity's first contact with an alien civilization, and so far it wasn't going well. The meeting room was a large oval space with a polished wooden table. On one side sat the human delegation, 5 military officers and 3 civilian scientists. Across from them were the aliens who called themselves Zoraxians. The Zoraxian ambassador, Krelthax, stood 7 feet tall with a hard, shiny exoskeleton that changed colors in the light. His forearms rested on the table, and his large eyes, black as space itself, stared at the humans with what seemed like boredom. John took his seat next to Admiral Susan Wright, the highest-ranking officer present. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her face revealed nothing of her thoughts. "Let us continue our discussion," Ambassador Krelthax said, his voice deep and rumbling through the translator device on the table. "We have reviewed your military capabilities." The large screen on the wall lit up, showing images of Earth's 5 space vessels: the UES Defiant, UES Resilient, UES Steadfast, UES Vigilant, and UES Intrepid. "Your species has only 5 interstellar vessels." Ambassador Krelthax's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound the humans now knew was laughter. The Galactic Consortium expected more from a race that claimed readiness to join. John felt his face grow hot with anger, but kept his expression neutral. The Zoraxians had been like this since they arrived, acting superior, looking down on humans as if they were children. Admiral Wright spoke calmly. "Our fleet may be small, but we are proud of what we've built. Earth has been focused on solving our own problems before expanding into space." Another Zoraxian, General Dresmore, made a harsh sound. His exoskeleton was darker than the ambassador's, with red markings that looked like battle scars. "A race that cannot defend itself has no place in galactic politics," the general said. "Our smallest fleet has 20 ships. Our largest has 200. How would you stand against even a minor threat?" John watched the alien carefully. There was something in the way they kept bringing up Earth's defenses that bothered him. Were they just being rude, or was there more to it? "Perhaps a tour of one of your vessels would help us understand your civilization better," suggested Ambassador Krelthax. "We could offer technical assistance to help you catch up." The way he said "catch up" made it sound like he was talking to a child who couldn't tie their shoes yet. Admiral Wright smiled politely. "We appreciate the offer. We'll need to discuss it with our leadership." After 2 more hours of talks that went nowhere, the meeting ended. The Zoraxians returned to their ship using a transport beam that made them disappear in a flash of green light. As soon as they were gone, Admiral Wright's smile disappeared. "Emergency meeting. War room, 10 minutes. Deep inside Earth Central Command, 20 floors below ground level, the Joint Chiefs of Earth Defense gathered around a round table. The room was secure. No signals could get in or out. "They're sizing us up," Admiral Wright said bluntly. "All this talk about our fleet size, request to tour our ships, they're gathering intelligence." Captain William Carter, the youngest officer on the council at just 35, nodded in agreement. With his short brown hair and serious eyes, he looked more like a college professor than a military officer. But his mind was sharp and everyone respected his opinion. "Their technology is impressive," Captain Carter said. "But did you notice they keep talking about numbers? How many ships they have, how few we have. They measure strength by quantity." General Laura Peterson, head of Earth Ground Forces, tapped her fingers on the table. "So what do we do? Show them what our ships can really do?" Commander John Miller shook his head. "No. If they underestimate us, that's to our advantage. Our ships may be few, but they don't understand what they can do. Admiral Wright looked around. The table. Votes on whether to reveal our true capabilities. One by one, they voted. The decision was unanimous. Keep Earth's true power secret. Very well, said Admiral Wright. We continue as planned. Project Fist of God remains classified. As far as the Zoraxians know, we're just a young species with basic ships. On the main Zoraxian vessel, Ambassador Krell-Thax and General Dresmore were also having a meeting. Their ships are primitive, said the general, looking at the scans they had taken. Simple metal hulls, basic propulsion systems, minimal weapons. Nothing that could stand against even one of our vessels. Ambassador Krell-Thax moved to a large viewing window, looking down at the blue planet below. The planet is rich with resources. Minerals, water, biological diversity, all things the consortium values. And their defensive capability is a joke, the general added. 5 ships against our 50. Then we proceed as planned, the ambassador said. We will offer them a choice. Join the consortium and serve as a resource colony or be conquered. Either way, Earth will belong to us. Do you think they will fight? Asked a junior officer. General Dresmore clicked his mandibles in amusement. With what? Their tiny fleet? They would be foolish to try. Back on Earth, preparations were underway. While the politicians continued talks with the Zoraxians, military bases around the world went on high alert. In a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, engineers worked around the clock on the 5 ships that made up humanity's interstellar fleet. To outside observers, these vessels looked ordinary, even outdated by what they imagined alien standards would be. But deep inside each ship, hidden behind layers of ordinary-looking metal and equipment, lay the most advanced technology humans had ever created. Commander John Miller walked through the underground dock where the UES Defiant was being prepared. Chief Engineer Grace Wilson met him at the entrance to the ship. Is it ready? John asked. Grace nodded, her eyes showing both pride and worry. The quantum core is stable. If we need to use it. She didn't finish the sentence. John placed a hand on the ship's hull. Let's hope we don't have to. But if those aliens push us, they'll learn why we only needed to build 5 ships. What the Zoraxians didn't know was that these weren't merely ships. They were something else entirely, something that had never been seen in the galaxy before. And if war came, the aliens who mocked humanity's tiny fleet would discover why it meant their doom. Lieutenant Patricia Jones walked through the narrow hallways of the UES Defiant. The ship wasn't large, only 300 meters long compared to the smallest Zoraxian vessel which stretched over a kilometer. But size wasn't everything. Patricia nodded to fellow crew members as she made her way to the bridge. As the ship's weapons specialist, she had helped develop what lay hidden within the vessel's core. Her dark hair was cut short for practicality, and her brown eyes missed nothing as she checked various systems along her route. The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Daniel Brown stood at the center, looking at a large screen showing the Zoraxian fleet. His broad shoulders were tense and the lines around his eyes deeper than usual. Lieutenant Jones. He acknowledged her arrival without turning. Just in time for the bad news. Patricia took her station and looked at her own screen. What happened, sir? They've rejected our proposal for peaceful integration, Captain Brown said, finally turning to face his crew. His voice was steady, but Patricia could see the worry in his eyes. The Zoraxians have given us an ultimatum. Surrender Earth's resources or face annihilation. They've given us 48 hours to decide. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Everyone knew what this meant. War was coming. Commander Eric Powell, the ship's second-in-command, spoke up from his station. They think we're primitive because we don't have a massive fleet, he said, reviewing tactical displays. They measure strength in numbers. That's their mistake, Patricia replied, her fingers moving across her console, checking weapon systems that officially didn't exist. Captain Brown nodded. Prepare for emergency meeting with Admiral Wright. All department heads in the conference room in 30 minutes. On Earth, the situation was growing tense. News of the Zoraxian ultimatum had leaked to the public. Major cities had begun evacuation, procedures moving civilians to underground shelters built during the last World War. These structures, dug deep into the earth, had been updated over the years for just such an emergency. People looked up at the sky with fear. The massive Zoraxian vessels were visible even in daylight as dark spots against the blue. Parents held their children closer. Couples said goodbye as one partner in emergency services went to work, while the other headed to the shelters. In smaller towns, people packed their most important belongings and headed to designated safe zones. The roads were full but orderly. Humanity had practiced for disasters before, just never one from beyond the stars. In orbit, aboard the UES Defiant, the AMA emergency meeting was underway. A hologram of Admiral Susan Wright stood at the head of the conference table, her image flickering slightly. "The Joint Chiefs have made their decision," she announced to the gathered officers. "Operation Trojan Horse is now active." Captain Brown leaned forward. "So we're really doing this?" Admiral Wright nodded, her face grim. "We have no choice. The Zoraxians believe we have only conventional weapons. They don't understand that each of our ships carries experimental quantum displacement technology, and we're going to use that mistake against them." Intelligence Officer Lisa Martinez, a woman with sharp eyes and sharper mind, pulled up a series of images on the main screen. "We've analyzed their communications. They're absolutely convinced we pose no threat. Their ship's shields are designed to repel energy weapons and kinetic impacts, but they have no defense against what we've developed. Each of our 5 ships can take out 10 of theirs," Captain Brown said quietly. "But we need to get close enough first." Lieutenant Patricia Jones spoke up. "The quantum displacement drive needs to be within 500 meters of a target to work effectively. That means we need to get very close to their ships." "Won't they find that suspicious?" asked Commander Powell. "If we fly right up to their warships?" Admiral Wright's hologram smiled, but there was no humor in it. "That's where the plan comes in. When their attack begins, our ships will appear to scatter in panic. They'll chase us thinking we're running away. That's when you turn and strike." "What about Earth's defenses?" asked Chief Engineer Martin Garcia, a stocky man with gentle hands that could fix anything. "If they attack the planet directly, ground-based quantum displacement cannons are already in position," Admiral Wright assured him. "They're not as powerful as what's on your ships, but they can protect major population centers if needed." The hologram flickered again, and Admiral Wright looked at each officer in turn. "I won't lie to you. This will be dangerous. We're betting everything on technology that's never been used in actual combat. But it's our best hope. The future of our species depends on you." As the meeting concluded, Patricia found herself alone in the weapons control room, running final checks on the quantum displacement system. The door opened, and Captain Brown entered. "How's it looking, Lieutenant?" Patricia didn't look up from her work. "The system is stable, sir. Power flow is optimal. If the simulations are correct, we should be able to phase through their ships without damage to ourselves." "And what happens to them when we do?" he asked quietly. Now Patricia did look up. "Total molecular disruption, sir. Their atoms will literally fall apart. It will be quick, at least." Captain Brown nodded slowly. He was a military man, but taking lives, even alien lives, was never something to celebrate. "How many shots before we need to recharge?" 3, maybe 4 if we push it. The power requirements are enormous." "That should be enough," he said, "if everything goes according to plan." Patricia returned to her work, but her mind was elsewhere. She thought of her family in the shelters below, of her younger brother who still believed space was an adventure, not a battlefield. She thought of all humanity, facing extinction if she and her colleagues failed. "We won't fail," she whispered to herself. On the main Zoraxian vessel, High Commander Vraknar prepared his fleet for battle. His personal quarters were sparse, adorned only with trophies from previous conquests, pieces of technology from fallen civilizations. "The humans have not responded to our ultimatum," reported a junior officer. "They are likely still discussing their surrender terms," Vraknar said dismissively. "Have our ships moved into attack positions?" Yes, High Commander. All 50 warships are in optimal strike formation. Vraknar moved to a viewing screen looking at the small blue planet and the 5 tiny human vessels orbiting it. Such a primitive species. Their ships don't even have proper energy shielding. Should we begin the attack now? Asked the officer. No, Vraknar decided. Let them suffer the full 48 hours knowing what's coming. Fear will make their surrender more complete. The junior officer hesitated. There has been some unusual activity on their vessels. Power fluctuations our scanners can't quite identify. Vraknar waved a dismissive hand, probably trying to boost their pathetic weapons systems. It will make no difference. The officer bowed and left, leaving Vraknar alone with his thoughts. Soon, another world would join the long list of those conquered by the Zoraxian Empire. Another species would serve as laborers and resource providers for the glory of the consortium. The humans and their tiny fleet would be nothing but a footnote in Zoraxian history. Of this, Vraknar was certain. The 48 hours passed too quickly. Earth's deadline arrived on a clear morning as the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean. In command centers around the world, military personnel watched their screens with tense faces. In underground shelters, civilians huddled together waiting for news. Admiral Susan Wright stood in Earth Central Command, surrounded by screens showing the positions of all ships, both human and alien. Her uniform was crisp, but dark circles under her eyes revealed she hadn't slept. "It's time," she said to the room. "Send our answer." A communications officer nodded and pressed a series of buttons. On the main screen, Ambassador Krelthax's face appeared, his alien features impossible to read. Admiral Wright spoke clearly. "Humanity respectfully declines your offer and requests that your fleet leaves our solar system immediately." The aliens' mandibles clicked rapidly. "You refuse our generous terms? Have you lost your minds? You have seen our armada. Your 5 ships are nothing compared to our might." "Nevertheless, that is our answer," Admiral Wright replied calmly. The alien's black eyes seemed to darken further. "Then you have chosen extinction. We will take what we want from the ashes of your civilization." The screen went black. "All stations, battle alert," ordered Admiral Wright. "Operation Trojan Horse is go. May God help us all." On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Captain Daniel Brown felt the ship vibrate slightly as its engines powered up to full capacity. "Enemy fleet is moving," reported Commander Eric Powell from the tactical station. "They're breaking orbit and heading toward our position." Captain Brown took a deep breath. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, crew members moved with practiced efficiency. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Garcia monitored the quantum core, its blue light pulsing steadily. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties they hoped wouldn't come. Lieutenant Patricia Jones sat at the weapons console, her hands steady despite the fear in her stomach. Years of training had prepared her for this moment, but facing an alien armada was something no human had ever done before. "Zoraxian vessels powering weapons," announced the sensor officer, his voice tight. "Energy readings off the charts." "Execute Phase 1, ordered Captain Brown. "Make it look good." The helmsman nodded. "Evasive pattern Alpha, aye, sir." The UES Defiant suddenly lurched, then spun away from the approaching alien fleet. On nearby screens, the other 4 Earthships did the same, each taking a different direction. On Dio, the Zoraxian command ship, High Commander Vraknar watched with satisfaction as the human vessels scattered. "They flee before us," he said, mandibles clicking in amusement. "As expected." "Should we pursue them all, High Commander?" asked his second-in-command. Vraknar considered for a moment. "Divide our fleet. 10 ships to chase each human vessel. The remaining 10 will begin the bombardment of their major cities." "At once, High Commander." Vraknar watched as his perfect formation broke apart, ships speeding away in 5 different directions. These humans will learn the price of defiance. By day's end, their species will kneel before the consortium. "They've taken the bait," radioed Captain Brown from the Defiant to the other Earth vessels. "All ships, continue evasive maneuvers until they've fully committed to pursuit." The UES Defiant raced away from Earth, followed by 10 massive Zoraxian warships. With each passing minute, they got farther from their home planet and deeper into space. "Sir, they're gaining on us," reported the helmsman, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked the controls. "Let them," Captain Brown said calmly. "Lieutenant Jones, status of quantum displacement drive?" Patricia didn't look up from her console. "Charged at 100%, Captain. Ready on your mark." Captain Brown opened a channel to Earth Command. "Admiral Wright, the Zoraxians have split their fleet as predicted. We're ready for Phase 2. Admiral Wright's voice came through clearly. "Phase 2 authorized all ships. Show them what humanity is capable of." Captain Brown looked around at his crew, seeing the determination on their faces. "Helm, on my mark, execute a full stop and a 180-degree turn. Lieutenant Jones, prepare to activate. Quantum displacement field on my command." "Aye, Captain," they both responded. Captain Brown watched the tactical display. The Zoraxian ships were closing fast, their weapons hot, ready to destroy the seemingly helpless human vessel. "Mark," he ordered. The UES Defiant suddenly stopped, inertial dampeners straining to protect the crew from the massive G-forces. The ship spun around to face the oncoming alien vessels. "They're firing," shouted Commander Powell. "Brace for impact," Captain Brown called out. The lead Zoraxian ship fired its main weapon, a beam of energy so powerful it could cut through a mountain. It struck the Defiant dead center and passed right through it. "Quantum displacement field active," reported Lieutenant Jones, a note of wonder in her voice as the ship's special defense worked perfectly. "We're phasing at 99.9%. The Zoraxian energy beam had passed through the Defiant as if it wasn't there, because in a very real sense it wasn't. The quantum displacement field had shifted the ship partially out of normal spacetime. "Full power to engines," ordered Captain Brown. "Take us straight at the lead vessel." On the Zoraxian flagship, panic was setting in. "Impossible," shouted High Commander Vraknar, smashing his fist on the control panel. "Our weapons passed right through them, and now they're heading straight for us." "Should we evade?" asked his second-in-command, voice shaking. Vraknar hesitated. His entire military career, he had never retreated. "No, they're bluffing. Their tiny ship cannot harm us. Increase power to forward shields and prepare for impact." The UES Defiant accelerated toward the massive Zoraxian warship, which now loomed large in the view screen. "Impact in 10 seconds, announced the helmsman, his voice steady despite the sight of the enormous alien vessel growing larger by the second. "Lieutenant Jones, prepare to switch from defensive phasing to offensive phasing on my mark," ordered Captain Brown. Patricia nodded, her fingers poised over the controls. "Ready, sir?" 5 seconds to impact, called the helmsman. Captain Brown gripped the arms of his chair. "Remember your training. We've simulated this 100 times. 3, 2, 1. "Mark," shouted Captain Brown. The UES Defiant, still partially out of phase with normal spacetime, slammed into the Zoraxian warship. Instead of a collision, the human ship seemed to pass into the alien vessel like a ghost through a wall. Inside the Zoraxian ship, crew members watched in horror as the human vessel passed through their hull as if it wasn't solid. The quantum displacement field of the Defiant interacted with the atomic structure of the Zoraxian ship, causing a reaction that no shield could stop. "Quantum displacement successful," reported Lieutenant Jones, watching her readings as the Defiant emerged from the other side of the Zoraxian vessel. "Target ship experiencing atomic disruption." Behind them, the massive Zoraxian warship began to shimmer and distort. Sections of its hull seemed to simply fall apart, disintegrating into clouds of loose atoms. The effect spread like a wave through the entire vessel. "My God," whispered Commander Powell as they watched on the rear view screen. Within 30 seconds, the mighty Zoraxian warship was nothing but an expanding cloud of particles. "One down," said Captain Brown grimly. 9 to go. Recharge the drive, and prepare for another run. All across the solar system, the other Earth vessels executed similar maneuvers. The UES Resilient, UES Steadfast, UES Vigilant, and UES Intrepid Each turned to face their pursuers. Each activated their quantum displacement fields, and each began to systematically destroy the alien warships. The Zoraxians, finally recognizing the danger, attempted to regroup, but it was too late. Their neat hunting formations had become their doom, spreading them too thin against humanity's secret weapon. "This is impossible," screamed High Commander Vraknar as reports of destruction came in from all directions. "What kind of weapons are these?" But there was no answer. The humans had turned the hunter into the prey, and the battle for Earth had only just begun. The battle raged across Earth's solar system. The UES Defiant had already destroyed 4 Zoraxian warships and was lining up for a 5th. Inside the ship, the crew worked with practiced efficiency despite their exhaustion. "Quantum core at 62% and falling," reported Chief Engineer Garcia through the intercom. His voice sounded strained. "We can maybe do 2 more displacement runs before we need a full recharge." Captain Daniel Brown nodded grimly. "Make them count. Status of the other Earth vessels?" Commander Eric Powell checked his tactical display. "UES Resilient has taken down 5 enemy ships. UES Steadfast reports 4. UES Vigilant and UES Intrepid 3 each. That's 19 total plus our 4. 23 down, 27 to go," Captain Brown said. "And we're all running low on power." Lieutenant Patricia Jones looked up from her weapons console. "Captain, the remaining Zoraxian ships are changing formation. They're trying to regroup." On the main screen, they could see the alien vessels, moving away from their individual pursuits, attempting to form a defensive cluster. "They've figured out what we're doing," Captain Brown said. "They know we need to get close to use our weapon." "What's the plan, sir?" asked Patricia. Captain Brown thought for a moment. "Contact the other ships. We need to coordinate our next attack." On the Zoraxian command vessel, chaos reigned. "Hi." Commander Vraknar watched in horror as his mighty fleet was decimated by just 5 human ships. "How is this possible?" he demanded, smashing his fist against a control panel. "Our sensors show their vessels simply pass through our ships and then our ships disintegrate." The science officer, a younger Zoraxian named Thelvak, studied his readings with shaking hands. The human ships seemed to be generating some kind of field that shifts them partially outside normal spacetime. When they pass through our ships, this field disrupts the atomic bonds of our hull material. "Can we counter it?" Vraknar demanded. "Not with our current shield technology," admitted Thelvak. "But they appear to have power limitations. After several attacks, their field weakens significantly." Vraknar's eyes narrowed. "Then we shall wear them down. Order all remaining ships to form defensive formation Delta. Maximum distance between vessels. Force the humans to spend their energy chasing us." Back on Earth, Admiral Susan Wright monitored the battle from Central Command. She saw the Zoraxian ships changing tactics, spreading out to force the Earth vessels to travel farther between targets. "Clever," she muttered. "They figured out our power constraints." A young officer approached her with a data pad. "Admiral, all 5 ships report their quantum cores below 70% capacity. At current usage rates, they'll be depleted before they can eliminate the entire Zoraxian fleet." Admiral Wright's face remained calm, but her mind raced. They had known this might happen. Each quantum displacement drive required the energy output of an entire continent. 5 ships was all Earth could power, and even they had limits. "It's time for Plan B," she decided. "Contact Captain Brown on the Defiant." The UES Defiant moved through space, pursuing the next Zoraxian target. On the bridge, Captain Brown received Admiral Wright's transmission. "Captain, initiate Protocol Omega," she ordered. "The Zoraxians are adapting. We need to end this quickly." "Captain," Brown's eyes widened slightly. "Understood, Admiral. Protocol Omega, confirmed." When the transmission ended, Commander Powell leaned closer. "Sir, Protocol Omega? Is that wise? We've never tested it outside simulation." "We have no choice," Captain Brown replied. "Contact the other ships, all vessels to form pentagram formation, and prepare for synchronized quantum displacement." Throughout the Defiant, the crew rushed to prepare for the dangerous maneuver. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Garcia rerouted power from life support and artificial gravity to the quantum core. "This will give us one big push," he told his team. "After that, we'll be running on emergency power only. If this doesn't work..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what was at stake. In space, the 5 Earth vessels began to move into a new formation, arranging themselves into the 5 points of a star shape. The Zoraxians watched with confusion. "What are they doing?" Vraknar asked, staring at the tactical display. "Unknown," replied his second-in-command. "But energy readings from all 5 human vessels are spiking dramatically." Vraknar felt a coldness in his chest, something he had never experienced before. Was it fear? "All ships, evasive action," he ordered. "Maximum distance from the human vessels," but it was too late. On the Defiant, Captain Brown gave the final order. "All ships, activate synchronized quantum displacement field on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." Lieutenant Patricia Jones pressed the activation sequence. The quantum core in the center of the ship glowed blindingly bright as it pushed beyond safe limits. The 5 Earth ships began to glow with a blue-white light. Unlike before, they didn't move. Instead, the light between them connected, forming lines of energy that created a perfect star shape. "Field stabilizing," reported Patricia, her voice tense. "Synchronized quantum displacement at 85%, 90%, 95%, full synchronization achieved." The space within the pentagram formation began to distort, reality itself seeming to fold and bend. A sphere of shimmering energy expanded from the center, growing larger with each passing second. "It's working," whispered Commander Powell in awe. The quantum displacement field, now amplified by the synchronized power of all 5 ships, expanded outward. Unlike the directed weapon they had used before, this was an area effect, a bubble of altered spacetime that grew to engulf the nearby Zoraxian vessels. Inside the bubble, the laws of physics were temporarily rewritten. Atomic bonds weakened, molecular structures fell apart. The Zoraxian ships caught in the effect began to disintegrate, breaking down into their component atoms. "This is impossible," screamed High Commander Vraknar as his command ship began to come apart around him. "What kind of weapons are these?" From Earth Central Command, Admiral Wright watched as nearly 20 Zoraxian ships were caught in the quantum field and destroyed simultaneously. The remaining alien vessels, seeing the fate of their comrades, began to turn away. "They're retreating," announced an officer, disbelief in his voice. Admiral Wright allowed herself a small smile. "Of course they are. They finally understand what they're facing." As the quantum field collapsed, the 5 Earth ships powered down to emergency levels. Their crews were exhausted but triumphant. They had defeated a force 10 times their size using technology the enemy couldn't comprehend. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Brown opened a channel to the retreating Zoraxian vessels. "This is Captain Daniel Brown of the United Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been defeated. Surrender or leave our solar system immediately." After a tense moment, a reply came through. It was Ambassador Krelthax, his once arrogant demeanor now subdued. We did not understand," the ambassador stammered. "The Galactic Consortium must be informed of this technology. How is it possible that you developed such power with only 5 ships?" Captain Brown looked around at his tired but proud crew before answering. "We built 5 ships because 5 was all we needed. Quality over quantity, Ambassador, that's the human way." Ambassador Krelthax was silent for a moment. "The remaining ships will withdraw. The consortium will send diplomatic envoys to discuss peaceful relations." "We look forward to it," Captain Brown replied. "Next time, try asking nicely." 3 days later, Admiral Wright addressed the United Earth Council in the rebuilt United Nations building in New York. "The Zoraxians have left our solar system," she announced to applause. "Their remaining ships are returning to consortium space with a new understanding of humanity." A council member raised his hand. "Will they return with a larger fleet?" Admiral Wright shook her head. "I don't think so. Word is spreading quickly throughout the galaxy. The species with only 5 ships defeated the mighty Zoraxian armada. Our reputation has transformed overnight from primitive newcomers to the species whose tiny fleet brings doom. And what of our ships? Asked another council member. Being repaired and recharged, Admiral Wright replied. The quantum displacement. Technology worked even better than we hoped. With some refinements, we may be able to increase efficiency and reduce power consumption. The council president stood. Today marks our true entrance into the galactic community. They mocked our tiny fleet until they realized what it meant. Now, let's hope we can build a peace that ensures we never have to demonstrate our power again. Throughout the galaxy, a new saying emerged among spacefaring civilizations. Count not the ships in humanity's fleet, but fear the power of each one. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and everyone was paying attention.